The Mass Effect series contains some of the deepest and richest lore that can be found in video games. The expansive world building and storytelling of this sci-fi universe has driven discussion of its lore in the fandom for over 15 years. But there are many facts and tidbits about Mass Effect that even the most hardcore lore buffs like myself may have missed along the way. And this is where iceberg theories come into play. Lore icebergs explore the concept that fictional universes have many stories to tell beyond what we see in the main narrative. The main stories and content delivered in a direct fashion only scratch the surface, but much more can be discovered when we delve below the surface. In this video, we're going to explore some of the most mysterious and disturbing lore that can be found in the Mass Effect universe. We'll be covering things like the possible survival of the Thorian, the little-known connection between Aria and Wrex, secret dialogue you may have missed, and the infamous Tali sweat controversy. My goal with this video is to help you discover something new about Mass Effect, and even the most diehard fans will find fresh stories they probably hadn't heard before. I know I learned a few new things while researching this video. This is going to be a long video, so if you're interested in a specific topic, I put timestamps in the description so you can explore at your discretion. But without further ado, let's buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and explore the iceberg theories of Mass Effect. Let's start out with just the tip of the iceberg, the Tier 1 Mass Effect theories and lore. Mass Effect 2's main story initially allowed the player to recruit any squad mate they wanted right from the start of the game. But because of space limitations on Xbox 360 discs at the time, BioWare was forced to split the game onto 2 discs. As a result, they had to restructure the plot, postponing several dossier missions until after Horizon. BioWare had already recorded dialogue and cutscenes featuring companions like Tali, Thane, and Samara on the early game recruitment missions before Horizon.
Tali, stay with Garrus. Keep him alive.
Just like old times, Garrus.
Yeah, one big happy reunion.
Most players will miss out on this dialogue unless they are using a save editor or mods. But no companion got the shaft more than our Geth squadmate Legion. Legion is initially recruited during the mission where Shepard retrieves the Reaper IFF. Unfortunately, this mission triggers an endgame timer, which prompts the Collector attack on the Normandy, where all the crew except Joker are kidnapped. This event essentially forces us to launch the final mission, lest we leave our crew members to die at the hands of the Collectors. For most players, this means they will only get to play 1 or 2 missions with Legion before going through the Omega-4 relay. This also means most players will miss out on some of Legion's most interesting dialogue and encounters during Mass Effect 2. For starters, there is Legion's interaction with the Council. If you saved the Council at the end of Mass Effect 1, and nominated Anderson as the human counselor, then Shepard will have an opportunity to testify before the Council in Mass Effect 2. If you bring Legion as a squad mate during this conversation, he will chime in to contest the Council's theory that Sovereign was merely a Geth ship.
The hologram on Ilos is no longer functional, and we have found nothing to suggest that Sovereign was not a Geth creation.
We do not have the technology to create such a vessel.
The word of your trophy is suspect. Perhaps the Geth following Saren were simply more advanced.
There is also a unique encounter that happens if you bring Legion to recruit Tali on Haestrom. At the end of the mission, once you reach Tali's bunker, she'll misidentify Legion as a hostile Geth straggler.
Shepard, I can't believe you're... Geth, get down!
Allied fire. Cover. Requesting assistance, Shepard Commander.
How does that Geth know your name?
It's not like Saren's Geth. It doesn't worship the Reapers, and it wants to stop the Geth who do.
So it's just one of the friendly Geth that drove my people from their homeworld.
We do not intend physical harm to the creators at this time.
Fine. We can talk about this later, Shepard. In private.
The most famous incident occurs when you bring Legion along for Tali's loyalty mission. I'd wager many players already know about this one though, considering it is possible to complete this mission and save the Normandy crew if you play your cards right. Legion is the only character in the Mass Effect universe who gives us a direct window into Geth culture and way of thinking, so it's a shame that most of Legion's content is hidden out of view because of how the game was structured. The Illusive Man is the legendary ally turned villain of Mass Effect 2 and 3. Not much is known about this enigmatic character in-game, but if you explore the Mass Effect comics and novels, you can learn more about his backstory. The Illusive Man's real name is Jack Harper, and before founding Cerberus, he was a veteran of the First Contact War, serving under Ashley Williams' grandfather during the ill-fated Battle of Shanxi. His two closest compatriots during this time period were his lover Ava Corey and his best friend Ben Hislop. During the battle, Jack Harper helped capture a high-ranking Thorian general named Decius Arterius, aka Saren's brother. He also encountered a Reaper artifact, similar to the one we find during the Arrival DLC. After interacting with it, Harper was knocked unconscious and taken prisoner by the Thorians. Ben was reportedly killed in the blast given off by the artifact, but in reality, he was turned into a monstrous husk by Decius, who sought to harness the power of the artifact. Later in the story, Ava tries to destroy the Reaper artifact, but she is assaulted and killed by Husk Ben. The loss of his lover and best friend, as well as the excesses of the Thorians, caused Jack Harper to realize he needed to found an organization to protect the interest of humanity. He recorded a manifesto, broadcasting it and calling on other humans to join his cause. A dark time is coming. Humanity will be tested. And while we may not know who is doing the testing or why, we must meet the challenge as we have met all others. We will succeed, because to do anything else would be inhuman. We can and will take our rightful place in the stars. This is my manifesto. I hope you will join my cause. Thus, Jack Harper created Cerberus and became the Illusive Man. Given his pro-human agenda, the Illusive Man was very supportive of the Terra Firma Party and sought to gain influence over it through nefarious means. In 2183, he ordered two Cerberus operatives, Pell and Paul Grayson, to assassinate a top party figure named Claude Monod. This allowed Charles Saraceno to become the head of the Terra Firma Party. The Illusive Man saw Saraceno as more pliable and prone to his influence than Monod. There's also the matter of the Illusive Man's indoctrination. When exactly did he turn over the line? Was it after interacting with the Reaper artifact in the First Contact War, or did it come much later when he installed Reaper tech implants near the events of Mass Effect 3? We can find video footage of him authorizing this procedure during the Kronos Station mission in Mass Effect 3. I believe the Illusive Man truly wanted to help humanity at some point, but would go way too far in his efforts, often at the expense of alien races and even other humans. Ardat-Yakshi are Asari with an extremely rare genetic disorder that causes instant death in people they mate with. Their nervous systems burnt out with fatal pleasure as they embrace eternity. We first learn about the Ardat-Yakshi in Mass Effect 2, but there are some inconsistencies in the lore between the second and third games in the franchise. In a conversation with Samara, she claims there are only 3 Ardat-Yakshi still in existence, and all of them are her daughters, Falere, Rila, and Morinth.
As far as I know, only 3 exist today. 2 chose a life of seclusion. The third ran.
Morinth.
And yet, in Mass Effect 3, we discover there may be more Ardat-Yakshi than we first thought. For starters, there is the Ardat-Yakshi monastery we visit at the urging of the Asari government. This sprawling facility serves as a voluntary retreat for AYs who want to keep their urges in check and avoid hurting others. But if there are only 3 known Ardat-Yakshi in the galaxy, one of whom is most likely already dead, then why construct such a massive facility to house them? Were there more residents here at some point and the population has just dwindled over the centuries? Or are there more Ardat-Yakshis right now? It gets even weirder when we consider the Banshees. According to the Mass Effect 3 narrated codex, all Banshees are created from Ardat-Yakshi, which was the motivating factor for the Reapers attacking the monastery in the first place.
Banshees are the corrupted Asari often found leading a Reaper strike force. The Reapers create them specifically from Asari with active or latent predispositions to becoming Ardat-Yakshi. When Banshees die, their Ardat-Yakshi genetics twist against them, causing a biotic implosion to ensure they evade capture.
We will fight Banshees on at least 4 different occasions in Mass Effect 3, during the Monastery mission, on Thessia, on Horizon, and finally on Earth. Considering we fight at least a dozen Banshees throughout the game, how could the Reapers create so many of them if there were only 2 or 3 Ardat-Yakshi left in existence? We must conclude there are either more Ardat-Yakshi than Samara led us to believe, or that Banshees can be created from regular Asari. I'm more inclined to believe that Samara was misinformed when she spoke to us in Mass Effect 2, and there are more AYs than we initially thought. But considering 2 of her daughters live in a monastery designed to house Ardat-Yakshi, how could she not know there were more of them out there besides her own offspring? Ultimately, we're left with more questions than answers about the Ardat-Yakshi and Banshees by the end of Mass Effect 3. Side note, if you spared Morinth in Mass Effect 2, and she survives the trip to the Collector base, she'll reappear in Mass Effect 3 as a bona fide Banshee on planet Earth. During Mass Effect 1, Commander Shepard has the power to decide the fate of many different NPCs. It's a great responsibility, choosing who gets to live and who dies. One of the more despicable characters we meet in the early game is a man called Fist, owner of Chora's Den Bar and agent of the Shadow Broker. You may be surprised to learn that we can actually spare Fist's life under the right circumstances, and he'll even come back in Mass Effect 2 and arguably ME3 as well. If you choose to pursue Garrus instead of Wrex, you'll have the opportunity to spare Fist after battling your way into Chora's Den. If Wrex is present, he will always kill Fist, so whatever you do, make sure Wrex isn't there if you want to go this route.
Give me the location. Now.
Here on the wards, the back alley by the markets. She's supposed to meet them right now. You can make it if you hurry.
Am I supposed to just forget your part in all this?
Hey, I came clean. I told you about the meeting. Besides, I've got my own problems now. The Shadow Broker wants me dead. I have to disappear. Forget about me. I'm a ghost.
You're not my concern.
Don't worry, you'll never see me again.
If you allow Fist to live, you can bump into him 2 years later at the Afterlife on Omega. He's fallen on hard times since his days as a big-shot crime lord on the Citadel, and funnily enough, he'll blame Commander Shepard for how his life turned out.
Shepard? I heard you were dead. I had a party and everything. No hard feelings, though, huh? No, really. Thanks for taking the time to chase a small-time crook off the Citadel so I could squat in this shithole for years.
And if you leave the straight and narrow, I'll be there to follow up.
Right, because you don't have planets to save and bigger shit like that. Nothing better to do than keep me down.
I've been gone a long time. At some point, your crappy life is your own fault.
Maybe. Easier to hate you, though. But it doesn't matter. I'm not looking for a fight. It's enough to see your smiling face, Shepard.
Whoever you are, you stopped being relevant about 5 minutes after I apparently told you to run.
Hey, yeah, that's great. Fuck you, too. Ruin a guy's life. The least you could do is remember. Goddamn saviors of the galaxy. Messing with a man's living.
Here's where things get a little bit strange. During an interview with the developers of Mass Effect 3, one of them mentioned that Fist's body can be found during the Cerberus attack on the Citadel.
As everyone in ME3, there's a section where you're fighting through the Citadel, and you kind of go through some back area, whatever, and there's a skeleton sitting there. That's Fist. If you didn't kill him. He's just been hiding out. We were supposed to make that more. The designer didn't put in the stuff to point at that, but basically that was supposed to be Fist.
Now let me tell you, I have played a lot of Mass Effect 3, and I've scoured every inch of the Citadel during the Cerberus attack, and I simply have not been able to find Fist's body anywhere. So perhaps the aforementioned dev is referring to cut content or misremembering what ideas were actually put into the game. In any case, Fist's story does not have a happy ending. Speaking of unhappy endings, there is also Rana Thanoptis, the Asari scientists we first meet in Saren's lab on Vermeer in Mass Effect 1. After she unlocks Saren's lab for us, Shepard can decide to spare her life or execute her on the spot. Throughout the series, making Paragon choices usually leads to the best outcomes, but this is one instance where being forgiving actually produces unintended negative consequences. In Mass Effect 2, we bump into Rana again during our trip to recruit a Krogan warlord. Once again, she's back to her old tricks, conducting research with unethical methods. But as bad as this seems, this is not the unintended consequence I'm referring to. In Mass Effect 3, we will receive an email message highlighting a vicious attack by an indoctrinated Asari. The Asari in question is none other than Rana Thanoptis, who took her own life after killing 9 Asari people. Thanoptis was believed to be responsible for planting a makeshift explosive device that detonated at a research center, killing 5 visiting Asari military officials along with 4 civilians. The attack seriously wounded a dozen more and caused significant damage to the facility. So in some cases in Mass Effect, it pays off better to be renegade. In the words of Renegade Shepard,
"A bullet in the head solves everything."
the Mass Effect trilogy is filled with hidden and unique dialogue that is only accessible when you make certain decisions. One of my favorite lines from Zaeed is a secret conversation you can experience in Mass Effect 2. It's a little complicated to set up. For starters, you need to complete Mass Effect 1 and sacrifice the Council at the end of the game. Next, you need to complete Thane and Garrus's loyalty missions in Mass Effect 2. And during Garrus's loyalty mission, you need to not pick up the forged IDs that can be found in Harkin's office in the warehouse. If you retrieve the IDs, you cannot get this dialogue. At this point, 2 Asari will appear on the Citadel in search of a way to get passage. Commander Shepard will offer to help, but since you didn't pick up the forged IDs, you'll have no way to do so. If you also sacrifice the Council, the Asari will be very rude to Shepard, prompting a hilarious response from Zaeed if he's in your party.
I overheard you talking. Having a problem?
A human. Your kind is always shoving your way in to solve the galaxy's problems, aren't you?
Look, sweetheart. When you need a problem shot, ask a Thorian. When you need a problem talked to death, ask an Asari. When you need a new problem, ask a Salarian. When you want a problem fixed, ask a human.
Like you fixed the Council? If you'll excuse us, we don't want to talk with your kind. What do you want?
It seems I offended you. That wasn't my intention.
Your attitude offends me. The smugness, the arrogance. All humans are like that since you let the Geth kill the real Council. Now, the galaxy's in chaos. Pirates are striking in civilized clusters. Armed CSEC officers are everywhere for our protection. And you swagger up to me, thump your chest and tell me that only a human can solve my problems. Ha! Screw you.
Look me in the eye and say that again.
You can sit here in your cushy chairs, sipping drinks and bitching about humans because we saved your asses 2 years ago.
That's not...
If it weren't for the Alliance fleet, this station would have fallen to Sovereign, and you'd all be Reaper Chav now. You're welcome. Enjoy your drinks, ladies.
Speaking of unique Zaeed encounters, along with Samara, Zaeed is the only squad mate who can die after the final mission in Mass Effect 2. But in order to do this, you need to meet a few very specific requirements. You need to complete the final mission before Zaeed's loyalty mission. You need to have at least 2 surviving squad mates in addition to Zaeed, and you need to save the factory workers during Zaeed's loyalty mission. If all these requirements are met, then you'll have the option to sacrifice Zaeed at the end of his loyalty mission.
Stop screwing around. Let's go.
You're too crazy, Zaeed. You have no place among my crew.
You can't be serious. You need me. Screw you, Shepard.
It's time to get into some deeper theories as we begin to dive below the surface of the iceberg. The Thorian is one of the most unique, strange, and disturbing beings we encounter in the Mass Effect series. It's an organic, plant-based life form whose existence predates the Protheans, making it one of the oldest organic beings in the galaxy alongside Leviathan. Species 37, as Exogeny refers to it, is not a typical organic life form like a human, Asari, etc. It does not inhabit a fixed body. Rather, it is a network of nerves and tendrils spread across the planet of Pharos. The Thorian has unique mind control capabilities. It infects its thralls with airborne spores, allowing the Thorian to issue mental commands to the infected. If the thrall resists, the Thorian creates a painful nervous reaction until the subject is compliant with the Thorian's wishes. In this way, it was able to enthrall over 80% of the Zoo's Hope colonists, with only one guy resisting the Thorian at great personal cost.
They're a thorn in the side of the... Trying to get to the... Dying!
At the conclusion of the Pharos mission in Mass Effect 1, Commander Shepard destroys the Thorian's node connections to the colony's subterranean walls. The Thorian plummets to the pit below, presumably to its death. But what if the Thorian survived? What evidence do we have that the Thorian actually perished on Pharos that fateful day? Commander Shepard and crew did not check to see that it was really dead, a fatal mistake in all of fiction. Just ask Hawk or Varric in Dragon Age.
If you and Hawk defeated him once, we can do it again.
We didn't just think Corypheus was dead. He was dead. No pulse, no breath, full of stab wounds. There wasn't a lot of room for doubt.
If we spare Shiala in Mass Effect 1, we'll encounter her on Ilium in the sequel. Her skin now turned dark green, owing to the effects of the Thorian on her physiology. The rest of the colonists of Zoo's Hope also have lingering effects from the Thorian spores. At face value, it makes sense that there would be long-term effects to breathing in mind-controlling spores that impact your nervous system, but what if the Thorian is still pulling the strings? Shiala makes a comment to confirm that the Thorian is truly dead.
Is it Exogeny pushing colonists around again, or did the Thorians somehow survive our fight?
No. Exogeny has been very supportive of Zoo's Hope. They actually seem to want to help us survive, and the Thorian is dead. Though, after all you went through to kill it, I understand your concern.
But remember, she was deeply impacted by the Thorian. If it were still alive, given the recent threat to its existence, wouldn't it want its thralls to assure people that it was truly gone? In Mass Effect 3, we'll receive an email from Shiala informing us that the Zoo's Hope colonists are fighting back against the Reapers. She emphatically reiterates the Thorian's demise, stating, "The Thorian is dead now. I can confirm that. But the spores in our bodies remain, and on some level, we are still connected." Why would she feel the need to reconfirm the Thorian's death, a fact she told us on Ilium over a year earlier? Like, yep, remember the Thorian? Oh yeah, still dead. Still totally dead. Nothing to see here. Shiala goes on to mention how the Zoo's Hope colonists' shared connection is making a tangible difference in the fight against the Reapers. Perhaps the colonists should separate for their own safety, but with one mind, the untrained fight with the skill of veteran commandos. Our force is strong. I think it's possible the Thorian survived and is still controlling its thralls all the way through Mass Effect 3. It's using the Zoo's Hope colonists to keep its existence a secret and fight back against the Reapers, who betrayed it on that day when Saren ordered the Geth to destroy it. The Reapers had spared the Thorian in at least one previous cycle, but now that the war is started, the Thorian can't risk getting harvested this time. Or at the very least, it wishes to protect its thralls so that it can continue to protect itself before going back into hibernation. In Mass Effect Andromeda, Ryder and crew encounter dozens of quote-unquote remnant sites, a network of terraforming vaults and other structures equipped with synthetic guardians. We initially know very little about the Remnant and who created them until we discover the location of Meridian near the end of the game. It's there we see a recording of the Jardaan leaving the Helios cluster, as well as additional evidence that they synthetically created the Angara, who are the only native sentient organic race in the galaxy. Or at least we thought they were the only organic race until this discovery. But what happened to the Jardaan? Through carbon dating on Habitat 7 and EOS, Sam and Ryder estimate the remnant sites have been dormant for 300 to 400 years, and we can deduce that their departure may have caused the scourge that now plagues the Helios cluster. But there are still a lot of unanswered questions for the player. Where did the Jardaan come from? Who were they in conflict with? Was it a civil war, or a war with another force entirely? Why did they abandon the Helios cluster? Where did they go? And are they still alive today? Given the failure of Mass Effect Andromeda as a commercial product, we may never learn the answers to these questions unless the next game somehow tries to address them alongside the Milky Way plotline. I guess only time will tell. The Leviathan of Dis is one of the most interesting Reaper rabbit holes we can go down in the Mass Effect trilogy. In 2163, 2 decades before the start of Mass Effect 1, a Batarian survey team discovered a destroyed ancient starship on the planet Jartar. Not long after its discovery, the starship disappeared, coincidentally after a Batarian dreadnought visited the same star system. Gee, I wonder if they were involved. For years, the Batarians denied involvement in the incident, but we discover the truth in Mass Effect 3. The Batarians took the inert Reaper to their home planet of Karshan to study. Unfortunately for the Batarians, many of their research scientists became indoctrinated, and they sabotaged the planetary defense systems when the Reapers invaded, rendering the Batarian homeworld helpless to defend itself. Bollock explains the situation when confronting Shepard in the refugee docks. This is not where the rabbit hole ends, though. During the Leviathan DLC, we discover that the Leviathan of Dis was possibly destroyed by the Leviathans, an ancient organic race that created the Reapers hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Admiral, the Leviathan of Dis that we've been investigating, I think we're really onto something. Give me the brief. About 20 years ago, the Batarians discovered a Reaper corpse that had died in battle. They covered it up and denied it ever existed. But I'm intrigued by the larger implication. What could have killed the Reaper in the first place? Exactly. That's the real Leviathan. It's worth pursuing. Continue your investigation and update me on the progress.
But Bryson was not the only one researching the Leviathan of Dis. An internet conspiracy theorist named Bernard Plim published a series of articles on the extranet detailing the Batarian involvement with the Inner Reaper. I, your tireless, highly educated, and dedicated sleuth/shit disturber, have uncovered a receipt from a coffee shop here on the Citadel with the following notation: Bryson, Garneau, Leviathan discussion, planning and supply list. So clearly, Task Force Aurora is discussing the Leviathan of Dis. Let me repeat that. Task Force Aurora is studying the Leviathan of Dis. In all my years, I have never heard of anything this big. The galaxy needs to know. Spread the word and demand answers from Hackett and the Alliance. If you've never seen these logs before, it's because they were part of a marketing campaign to promote the Leviathan DLC and don't actually exist in the game files of Mass Effect 3, but rather online in our own universe. The blog, titled Conspiracy Accountability League, is still available online today if you want to read through it. There is also an Easter egg referring to this lore in the Citadel DLC. If you visit the Armax Arsenal Arena and check out the leaderboards, you'll notice Bernard Plim sitting at the bottom of the list, just below Herc and the reporter Khaleesa bint Sinan al-Jilani. The Leviathan DLC provides some fascinating lore about the history of the galaxy and the origins of the Reapers, but it also poses interesting questions about the future of the Mass Effect universe. At the end of the DLC, Commander Shepard comes face to face with the last remaining Leviathans and convinces them to join the war effort against the Reapers. But now that the Reaper threat is presumably dealt with, what happens with the Leviathans now? We know from our conversation that the Leviathans view other organic races as inferior. They agree to help us in the first place, not as equals and allies, but as superior beings with a mutual enemy. After the Reapers are gone, will the Leviathans take an isolationist approach, join the Galactic Order, or try to conquer it for themselves? Leviathan has the ability to indoctrinate and mind control organic beings through the use of artifacts, similar to the process we see with the Reapers. This was one of the means they used to conceal their existence over the years. The Leviathans killed Dr. Bryson, enthralled a group of human miners, and were possibly responsible for the Rachni Wars, which led to near-total extinction for an entire sentient race. It's terrifying to consider what the Leviathans could do when unleashed on an already war-weary galaxy. And I've been wondering, if we see the Leviathans again in the next Mass Effect, will they be friends or foes? Early in the Mass Effect franchise, we believed the Protheans were completely wiped out by the Reapers approximately 50,000 years ago. But as the games progressed and new information was uncovered, we quickly discovered how wrong we were about the Protheans. We didn't know about the life pods on Ilos until the Rachni provided the location of the Mu relay. We didn't know the Collectors were genetically modified Protheans until EDI analyzed their genetic structure. And we didn't know any Protheans survived until we discovered Javic's life pod on Eden Prime. So what else don't we know? Is it possible that other Prothean stasis pods exist somewhere in the galaxy, waiting for someone to come and wake them? It seems like a long shot, given that indoctrinated Protheans sabotaged the stasis pod project, but unlikely doesn't mean impossible. I've been wondering if the Protheans will make a return in future Mass Effect games. Even if other stasis pods are never recovered, cloning is another possibility. We know from the Lazarus Project and the Citadel DLC that humans can be cloned, so why not Protheans as well? The main barrier would likely be reproduction, given that we only have one surviving male Prothean and no known female survivors. So even if we clone 10,000 Javiks, they wouldn't be able to naturally reproduce, rebuild, and sustain a new Prothean population. But let's say the Protheans do return. It would also pose an interesting political problem for the galaxy. First of all, where would they live? Most Prothean worlds have since been colonized by new races in the current cycle, so the Protheans couldn't simply return to a homeworld and rebuild a new civilization. They would need to integrate into existing worlds, colonize a currently uninhabited garden world, or live on ships like the Quarians. Also, given what we know about previous Prothean civilization, would they even accept a power-sharing arrangement in the current galactic order? They certainly wouldn't have the military strength to conquer and subjugate other races as they did in their own cycle. How would they fare with a more collaborative or even subservient relationship to humans, Asari, Turians, etc.? The story possibilities are quite fascinating, should BioWare choose to explore them in Mass Effect 4. Let's explore a little bit deeper as we enter into Tier 3 of the iceberg theories. One of the most compelling fan theories I stumbled upon while researching this video states that Aria T'Loak and Ardat-Yakshi were best friends in the distant past. If we speak to Wrex on the Normandy in Mass Effect 1, he'll tell us about an assassination contract he received from a Volus diplomat. The target was an Asari commando named Alina, who he knew personally.
Alina and I were old friends. Sort of. We met when we were both contracted to kill the same Turian. Neither of us wanted the other one to get him first. We spent more time fighting each other than tracking that Turian.
An Asari commando mercenary? That's unusual, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's unusual. Mercs come in all shapes. Anyway, when I told Alina about the diplomat's contract, she and I had a good laugh about it.
So what did you do?
Well, I was going to lose the contract, but I respected Alina. In the end, I let her pick the location where we'd fight.
Wrex and Alina would engage in mortal combat on a Salarian space station, with Wrex severely wounding his Asari friend before escaping the exploding station. But before he could report back to the Volus diplomat on the successful job, he received a message.
I assume the Asari commando didn't make it?
I watched the station from a distance. I never saw her leave. And when that place blew, there was nothing left larger than a Turian's right nut. So I headed back to the diplomat to give him the good news and collect my pay. But before I got halfway there, Alina sent me a message. Better luck next time. Now, I'm not superstitious, But if someone can survive that, well, they deserve to live. At least for a bit longer.
At face value, you might be thinking, okay Dan, what's this have to do with Aria? Well, I'm glad you asked. We can learn a little bit more about Aria's backstory when speaking to her on Omega in Mass Effect 2. She will initially not reveal anything to us, but after completing the job to rescue Patriarch, she'll give us a tiny bit more information. And some of the details she reveals bear a striking similarity to the Alina that Wrex described in Mass Effect 1.
We friendly enough to talk about who you were before, Omega?
You're reaching back centuries, Shepard. Long before anything that should matter to you.
So why keep it secret?
No reason, from your perspective. But there are plenty of people out there with long memories. I've had a few careers, a few names. Commando training, mercenary leanings. I've kept what was valuable and dropped the baggage.
I thought you were in charge. Why so scared of your past?
I have nothing to fear on Omega. That doesn't mean I want to broadcast my past to the galaxy. You'd be surprised how long some entities can hold a grudge. This little exercise with Patriarch? A footnote. Not even the first Krogan I've pissed off.
All right, I'll drop it.
Better luck next time.
Better luck next time. Aria uses Alina's signature catchphrase. It's a common euphemism to be sure, but given she also mentioned that she had Asari commando training, worked as a mercenary, and used other names besides Aria, it's not that far-fetched to conclude that Alina and Aria are one and the same. The space detectives that we are, some Mass Effect players connected the Aria and Alina dots, and asked BioWare to confirm whether it was true. But BioWare developers have provided contradictory answers over the years. In a 2013 Twitter thread, Patrick Weeks, a Mass Effect and Dragon Age writer, responded to a question about Aria/Alina. Are you confirming that Aria is Alina? Because if so, I will draw it myself. Did we not confirm that? Never mind. I basically read that as, yes, it's obviously true. I thought we already confirmed that. However, more recently, in 2015, Mike Gamble, project director for the next Mass Effect game, stated definitively that Aria and Alina aren't the same person.
Is Aria Alina? No, she's not. So the story that Wrex tells about she's not. Okay. Good to know.
With two different answers, both from BioWare staff, who should we believe? I'll let you decide. But it is worth pointing out that Weeks was a writer for the first 3 Mass Effect games, but Gamble's first project was Andromeda. And personally, I like the thought of Aria and Wrex being best buds in an earlier life, so I'm biased to believe it. The Inusannon are a mysterious race that went extinct in the cycle that occurred approximately 50,000 years before the rise of the Protheans. Little is known about the race, which presumably dominated the galaxy at one point, leaving behind scraps of their culture and technology for the Protheans to discover. When we explore Ilos in Mass Effect 1, we'll discover ruins with statues depicting beings with tentacle-like beards. Prior to Mass Effect 2, players believed these were Protheans, and it's likely that the developers initially intended that. But the character models of Protheans were altered and redesigned for Mass Effect 2 and 3 to be the appearance we see in the Collectors and Javik, and so BioWare retconned these statues as the Inusannon. There are a few other tidbits we can discover too. If we visit the uncharted world of Aingana in the Omega system in Mass Effect 2, we'll discover a codex entry that describes a war waged by the Inusannon in the very distant past. Approximately 127,000 years before 2180, a series of battles were fought over it by 2 organic species, the Thorian and the Inusannon. Although no records of the conflict remain, most historians agree that both races wanted to colonize Aingana, and neither were willing to share. The two lost hundreds of ships in a series of battles over Aingana and its moon, Baria. Many of these were eventually pulled in by the planet's gravity well. In Mass Effect 3, Javik confirms that the Protheans built upon the ruins of the Inusannon on Ilos, lending more credence to the statues depicting that long-extinct race.
Several years ago, we found a Prothean VI that called itself Vigil on the planet Ilos. He was the caretaker of a research project.
During my life, Ilos was only a rumor. It was said we had cities there, built on the ruins of a civilization before us, the Inusannon.
If you bring Javik as a squad mate on the Thessia mission, he will mention that the Protheans discovered mass relay technology from Inusannon ruins.
The Mars ruins are where humanity got Mass Effect technology.
And we learned of it from the ruins of the Inusannon, the race that came before us. It was our secret for centuries.
We'll likely never know what the Inusannon people were truly like, as their culture has been all but obliterated. Even if we could learn of them secondhand from Protheans like Javik, how likely is their information to be accurate? We only need to look at Liara to see how wrong we were about the Protheans, so why would the Inusannon be any different? Dead species tell no tales. To say that Mass Effect 3's ending was controversial is like saying the Pope is Catholic. Fans were outraged over the so-called red, green, blue endings, in which the cutscenes were nearly identical despite making such radically different decisions. Mass Effect fans were mauling. The levels of copium among the fandom were so extreme that it spawned an alternate theory to explain the ending. Indoctrination Theory posits that the final moments of Mass Effect 3 are actually a dream sequence, with the Reapers testing Shepard and trying to indoctrinate him to accept their supremacy. The dream begins after Shepard is hit with the Harbinger laser beam. The final conversations with the Illusive Man, Anderson, and the Catalyst are all part of the dream. The choices you make during the ending will see Shepard either succumbing to indoctrination or resisting it by choosing to destroy the Reapers. In the weeks after Mass Effect 3's release, Indoctrination Theory spread like wildfire on message boards and YouTube. The most comprehensive videos at the time were made by Julian Cluck, aka Clever Noob, who released over 2 hours of content exploring Indoctrination Theory in painstaking detail. The Clever Noob YouTube channel has since been deleted, but re-uploaded versions of his videos still exist on YouTube today. There are far too many talking points to go over all the evidence in this video, but if you want to explore Indoctrination Theory in much more depth, then check out my video on the subject. Over the years, BioWare developers have repeatedly stated that the Indoctrination Theory is not true. Chris Hepler stated the following during an interview with The Gamer in February 2021. The Indoctrination Theory is a really interesting theory, but it's entirely created by the fans. While we made some of the ending a little trippy because Shepard is a breath away from dying, and it's entirely possible there's some subconscious power to the kid's words, we never had the sort of meetings you'd need to have to properly seed it through the game. We weren't that smart. By all means, make mods, write fanfic about it, and enjoy whatever floats your boat, because it's a cool way to interpret the game, but it wasn't our intention. We didn't write that. And yet, the acceptance of the Indoctrination Theory amongst part of the Mass Effect fandom persists over a decade later. Whether you believe the Indoctrination Theory or not, it's very fun to explore and discuss, and it will go down in history as one of the most long-standing iceberg theories in any franchise. In Mass Effect 3, we are tasked with winning the support of the Quarian fleet by helping them end their war against the Geth. In the process, we reunite with our friendly Geth buddy Legion, or a holographic reconstruction of him if Legion died or was sold in Mass Effect 2. Legion will ask for Shepard's help in deactivating a server controlling a unit of Geth fighter squadrons. The mission involves Shepard interfacing directly with the server, removing corrupted code, and viewing historical memories before shutting down the server. The memories include depictions of Quarian aggression against the Geth and their eventual expulsion from Rannoch. Many players, and likely Commander Shepard as well, empathize with the Geth's struggle for existence and place blame on the Quarians for hostilities. But what if these memories are not accurate, but a fabricated representation of past events aimed at winning Shepard's support for their cause? Deepfakes, if you will. We know that the Geth are capable of deception. We see it several times during this questline. When Shepard deactivates the server, Legion transfers the remaining Geth into a unit of primes. He concealed this motive from Shepard the entire time.
Are you sure? What's happening?
We have transferred Geth programs from the server into these platforms.
Why?
They wish to join us.
Even our machines were never this irrational.
While Shepard Commander removed the Reaper infection, we judged we could persuade hostile Geth programs to reunite with ours. We were correct. These Geth have renounced the old machines and will oppose the Reapers. They are now us.
Why didn't you tell me any of this?
We did not doubt you. We doubted your allies. The Creator's actions have placed their species in danger, but they are unsympathetic to what it has done to ours. The Quarians sanctioned this operation to save their people. They would not have done so if they knew we wished to preserve Geth as well.
And right before we touch down on Rannoch, Legion reveals he lied about the continued presence of Reaper upgrades in his system.
This unit still carries remnants of the old machine upgrade code. We can break any Geth security. You are concerned.
You know your limits. I trust you. I'm more concerned you didn't tell me about the upgrades.
You were tolerant of our recovery of Geth intelligences from the server, but this matter is different. Personal.
You were ashamed.
Shame is an emotional or cognitive response to societal judgment. It should not apply here.
I'm on your side here, Legion. I want to help your people.
We did not intend to cause offense.
How'd we get here? The Geth are better than this.
No. Based on empirical evidence, they are not.
Understandably, Legion's primary motive is saving his people from the Quarians and maintaining independence from the Reapers as well. He wants his people to survive and be free, and he's clearly willing to sacrifice his own life for it, as we see at the end of Priority Rannoch. So what else would he be willing to do? In this light, showing Shepard a few deepfakes that make the Quarians look like the bad guys isn't all that far-fetched. When we take this into consideration, maybe we shouldn't accept the memories we see in the Geth server as canonical history, but treat it with a bit more suspicion. Because Mass Effect is a series that allows the player to enter into romantic relationships with a whole range of characters, there is a section of the fandom who obsesses over their video game crushes. While most of this interest in romancing aliens is fairly harmless and just for fun, there are some fans who slide further onto the degenerate side of the spectrum. I'm sure most of us want to know what Tali looks like under the mask, but there are a few that take it a bit further than that. The most bizarre thread I've ever seen has to be a series of posts detailing the fragrance, taste, and other properties of Quarian sweat. The post was originally made on the now-defunct BioWare social forums, but for better or worse, some screenshots survived and have since been shared on Reddit. Brace yourself, you might want to be sitting down for this next part. A while ago, I created a thesis on Clan Zora regarding Quarian sweat. It started off as an analysis of Tali's sweat, trying to figure out what it'd smell and taste like. I quickly realized that most scents originate from bacteria, which would be minimal to non-existent for Quarians. The next best thing would be urea. Urea is essential for the metabolism of mammals and also a bonding agent. My man goes on to provide illustrations of various chemical compounds. I'm no scientist, so most of this description goes over my head, but the author concludes that Quarian sweat may be addictive to other races and have a relaxing neurotoxic effect. As for the fragrance, we can tell that Tali would not smell nearly as bad as those filthy humans. Her sweat's a drug, and a natural performance enhancer. Yeah, I don't know if I want to play Mass Effect anymore. I disavow this degeneracy. Speaking of degeneracy, it's time to dive into the final tier of Mass Effect iceberg theories. But before we do that, I want to give a big shout out to my channel members for supporting this endeavor. If you're enjoying this video and want to support the channel further, consider becoming a channel member. It's basically like a Patreon membership or Twitch sub. You'll gain access to custom chat emojis, members-only posts, and even get your username in the credits of these videos if you join the $10 tier or higher. Your direct support allows me to dive deep on these more ambitious projects and lore videos, and I'm grateful for the support of each and every one of you. If you're not up for a financial contribution, then you could support this channel for free by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Now that the shameless plugging is out of the way, let's talk about the last 5 iceberg theories. At the beginning of Mass Effect 3, we encounter a secret Cerberus agent named Dr. Ava Corey during the Mars Archives mission. Ava Corey is an AI installed in a robot body, and we end up wiping her out after James Vega crashes her escape shuttle. In the aftermath, the Normandy AI Edie installs a part of herself in said robot body, and will go on to form a romantic relationship with Joker if Commander Shepard encourages it. Here's where things get a bit bizarre. As I mentioned in the Tier 1 theory about the Illusive Man's backstory, during the First Contact War, he was romantically involved with a woman named Ava Corey. So don't you think it's a bit odd that he named the AI robot agent after his deceased lover? It leaves us to wonder what the Illusive Man may have been doing with robot Ava when she wasn't out on a mission. What kind of stress testing did he perform? And given that Joker almost certainly engages in a tryst with the same body, we can reasonably assume that Joker and the Illusive Man are Eskimo brothers. Many character models in the Mass Effect series are based on real-life individuals. In some cases, character faces are created using the same voice actor, such as Miranda and Yvonne Strahovski. But in other cases, BioWare used a different person entirely. The most famous one is default male Commander Shepard, who is based on Dutch model Mark Vanderloo. However, the most mysterious case of all is Zaeed. This character was voiced by the late Robin Sachs, but Zaeed's appearance doesn't quite match the voice actor. But shortly after the release of Mass Effect 2, fans noticed an obscure TV actor who looked an awful lot like Zaeed IRL. In Season 3, Episode 1 of the show Lie to Me, this man is seen in the background of several shots during a courtroom scene. If you ask me to picture what Zaeed Masani looked like in real life, this man would be a 100% accurate representation of what I had in mind. The strangest thing about this is not only the striking resemblance, it's that the actor was completely uncredited and has never been identified to this day. This is not uncommon for extras in shows like this, but still, it's a little bit odd that no one could figure out who it is. I've scoured countless internet forums, Google search results, and IMDb pages hoping to find some evidence that would possibly identify the man, but no luck. To my knowledge, BioWare has never commented on the inspiration for the visual appearance of Zaeed's character model, and unless any new information arises, this one is a cold case. Throughout the Mass Effect series, the Reapers are the big bad, the enemies we seek to oppose and destroy for 3 games. But at one point in development, there was a plot twist that would position the Reapers as the good guys of the galaxy, trying to save the universe from its inevitable destruction. This was the Dark Energy plotline, which was ultimately scrapped by the writers in favor of the storyline we got in Mass Effect 3. Discovered in the late 20th century by astronomers, dark energy is dubbed the fifth force of the universe, along with gravity and electromagnetism. This mysterious energy is contributing to the rapid expansion of our universe. In the Mass Effect game world, it also has technological applications, most notably the mass relays, which make faster than light travel possible. Dark energy can be manipulated through the usage of Element Zero, and also harnessed by the use of biotics. Mass Effect writer Drew Karpyshyn explained the basic idea in the dark energy plot during an interview with Video Game Sophistry. The Reapers discovered that dark energy would eventually lead to the destruction of the universe. Basically, the universe would expand so much that it collapsed in on itself in an event called the Big Crunch. The Reapers also noticed that advanced organic civilizations using dark energy through biotics and the mass relays were actually hastening this eventual end of the universe. So when civilizations grew too advanced, the Reapers would come in and wipe them out. The Reapers sought to find a solution to the Big Crunch, and they realized the only way to do it was through harnessing biotics in a different way. In this plotline, the Reapers were incapable of using biotics themselves due to techno-space magic reasons. Yes, that's a real quote. So they were trying to cultivate an organic race to use biotics to prevent the end of the universe. The Protheans were close to fitting the bill, but they weren't quite right, so the Reapers harvested them. The Asari were close too, but they weren't right either. But perhaps humanity could be the chosen ones, so to speak. These ideas were never fully fleshed out, and the writers ended up pivoting to the organics versus synthetics war theme that we grapple with in Mass Effect 3. But we did see somewhat of a revival of the dark energy plot with the Scourge in Mass Effect Andromeda. I wonder if BioWare will shake off the dust of this old plotline in the next Mass Effect, or if it will forever remain a vague idea discussed by YouTubers like me. In December 2011, just a few months before the release of Mass Effect 3, the script for the game was leaked and posted online. Well, to call it a script would be a bit of a stretch. It's more like a jumbled text file with a myriad of ideas rather than a linear script. In any case, BioWare confirmed the authenticity of the leak and urged fans not to read it, considering it spoiled many details of the game's plot. But to me, the most interesting details of this leak aren't the plot details that were in Mass Effect 3, it's the content that was cut instead. For starters, before he was converted to Day 1 DLC, our Prothean squadmate Javik was initially supposed to play a central role in the plot. At one point, he was even going to be the catalyst itself, rather than the Star Child. He would play a big role on Thessia, and a modified version of the Eden Prime mission would be part of the main plot. During Eden Prime, Shepard would team up with a fellow Spectre, simply referred to as partner in the script, an unidentified male character who was considered a partner of the Virmire survivor, either Ashley or Kaidan. Shepard and the Spectre are investigating reports that Cerberus recovered a Prothean stasis pod, much like we see in the From Ashes DLC. But this mission was originally going to play out much differently, with Shepard searching for the Catalyst and presenting the player with a big plot reveal, that Javik was himself the Catalyst. Here is the mission description from the script. You land and fight Cerberus through the streets of Eden Prime, while terrified civilians hide. Then meet up with Partner, who arrived earlier, just in time to see an explosion of energy coming from the Prothean ruins. When he arrives, the Prothean is standing in a crater surrounded by dead Cerberus agents. It kills the last Cerberus soldier and exits in a cool fashion. Shepard and Partner assume that the Prothean is a rogue Cerberus super soldier created using the Catalyst. Partner goes after it, while you go after the Catalyst. After fighting Cerberus troops in the area, you find Cerberus video logs that show them opening a Prothean sphere and finding the Prothean inside. The vid makes it clear that the Prothean isn't a Cerberus soldier, he's the Catalyst. Shepard follows the Prothean's trail of destruction, fighting Cerberus troops. You eventually find the Prothean injured and exhausted, with Partner ready to kill it. Partner refuses to listen to your explanation and tries to kill the Prothean, and you have no choice but to kill him. The mission closes with you answering to the Council for the attack on Eden Prime and the death of the Spectre. Priority Thessia was also majorly restructured in the final release. Initially, the player would square off against the Virmire survivor, who believed the commander had betrayed the Alliance. In the aftermath of the Kai Lang boss fight, Shepard would also have to make a choice to save either the Virmire survivor or Liara, leaving one of them to die on the Asari homeworld. This is how the scene was described in the leaked script. As Kai Lang's defenses wear down, he moves to draw Shepard away from the Prothean. Once sufficiently damaged, Kai Lang jumps into a safe position and detonates the explosives rigged into the area away from the artifact. In a bright flash, Shepard and the squad are hit with the full brunt of the blast. Shepard regains consciousness as the ringing in his ears fades, and the voices of Ashley and Liara become discernible. As he tries to collect himself, it becomes apparent that the Prothean is gone. Ashley and Liara are in serious trouble, and Shepard has been horribly wounded. A piece of rebar protrudes from Shepard's back, he's bleeding badly and cannot stand. Shepard crawls forward in gameplay to try and save his surviving squad mates. As Shepard crawls along the ground, the floor continues to collapse. It's quite obvious that by the time he gets to one of his henchmen, the other one would have been overcome and killed. Shepard moves slowly, painting the ground beneath him with a long, bright trail of blood. His armor is damaged and cannot help him. If Shepard stops, the ground falls out from under him and he dies. As he moves toward one henchman, the other's situation becomes more dire. During the last leg of his crawl, the path to the furthest henchman gives way shortly after that character is killed. Once Shepard reaches the surviving henchman, he uses the last of his strength to assist them and collapses. The surviving henchman assists Shepard out of the collapsing cathedral. As they reach the exterior, the sound of a vehicle causes Shepard to look to the sky. It's Kai Lang. He has the unconscious Prothean in his dropship. Kai Lang gives Shep a wry smile and closes the dropship door and leaves. Shepard passes out and regains consciousness aboard the Normandy. His wounds are being tended to in the medical bay. This could have been a really intense moment in the game, but I'm not sure I would have preferred this to what we ended up getting on Thessia. Mass Effect 3 already sees the player losing several friends, even if they play perfectly. In a typical playthrough, Shepard loses Legion, Mordin, and Thane, so losing another squad mate here would have been pretty rough. You'd basically have an important character dying in every story mission. Also, I wonder how many people would choose the Virmire survivor over Liara. Maybe BioWare realized that it wasn't going to be much of a choice for most people. In any case, Thessia was reworked for the final release, including moving the mission until later in the game. Mass Effect and BioWare's other flagship RPG, Dragon Age, have a lot of references and Easter eggs inserted for observant fans.
Humans, thank the Maker.
But what if these references were more than simple Easter eggs, but instead evidence that shows that Mass Effect and Dragon Age take place in the same fictional universe? For starters, let's take a look at the presence of common beings in both franchises. In Dragon Age Inquisition, while visiting the Winter Palace, the Herald can discover several taxidermied busts of Krogan heads. Meanwhile, in Mass Effect 2, while exploring Donovan Hawk's vault, we see a statue of a Darkspawn ogre. Magic also exists in both universes, but in Mass Effect we call it biotics. So what if those spells we sling in Dragon Age are just a harnessing of Element Zero? The most interesting theory I've seen states that Dragon Age actually takes place on the moon of Presrop. If you've played Dragon Age, you may have noticed how unusually large the moon is in the sky. It's almost planet-sized. Well, if you take a look at the planet Klendagon while sitting on the moon Presrop, you'll notice both have very distinct and similar geological markings. So perhaps Thetis is actually a moon that the rest of the galaxy calls by another name. Personally, I think this theory is a bit too wild for my tastes, but it's fun to ponder the possibility of these two beloved RPG franchises being connected by more than just Easter eggs. So there you have it. The most mysterious and disturbing iceberg theories in the Mass Effect universe. This project was a massive undertaking in research and production, so if you've made it this far, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Mass Effect and RPG videos. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like this. I'm always open to considering content ideas from the community. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.